Sorry about the dusty table, but it's been a while since I've had a tool haul. And the main reason for that is, as I go on, I'm starting to realize that I don't need so many tools. I'm not trying to fix every car out there. The type of jobs that I do, I typically own all the tools that I need to do that job. So if I'm buying a tool, it's because I want to upgrade an existing tool I have to a better quality one, or it's just a tool that I should have bought a long time ago and never did. Anyway, so let's jump right into it. First tool, a gear wrench tool. So here we have the 893823. It's a 3/8 version of this kit. I believe it comes in 1/2 inch and maybe even 1/4 inch, but don't quote me on that one. So it's a pass-through socket design. The main reason why I bought this is to do things like stabilizer links. That's the main reason. And then secondary would be like the top of struts or shocks when you're trying to tighten the nut without the shaft spinning. You guys know what I'm talking about. So here goes the actual kit right here. And something I just realized is it's actually metric and standard. I didn't even realize there were standard sockets down here, but I guess that's good. I'm primarily only going to be using the metric. So you can see the ratchet itself has like a flex head. You push in on this button and it allows it to flex. So let's just grab the biggest size here, which is 19. By the way, it goes from 10 to 19. I don't think it's skipping a size. It doesn't look like it. Yeah, no skips. So basically, you know, you would put your socket in here. You see how it passes through. So if you had a shaft that has to go all the way through, just like that, it would allow you to tighten the nut on whatever you're working on. It doesn't matter how long the shaft is. I hope that makes sense. So I've used it a handful of times already and it performed just as I expected it to. So yeah, it's something I should have actually, I did have a variant of a tool like this a long time ago. It was a Craftsman one, but it was a much smaller set, very limited. And I just put it in my toolbox somewhere where I could never find it again. So I rarely used it, but this is something that is going to get used often. So I'll show you guys some footage of me using it for the exact thing that I bought it for, which is stabilizer links. Oh, and by the way, there are extensions, which is really cool. You can see we have a short extension here that might be like a 3-inch extension. And this one might be like a 6-inch. I'm not really sure, but it looks like it. All right. Let's move on to the next tool. Next up, I got something after watching the Torque Test channel. They did a test on a few different products like this, and they, you know, found this one to be one of the better ones. So I went ahead and bought it off Amazon. It's called the Wobble Super Power Turbo Fan Mega Flow 100. They could have just put 1 million on it. Guess doesn't really matter, right? So inside the box, you get a bunch of different attachments, and I just left this attachment on here because it's the one I prefer, and I'm not really going to be using any of these other ones. So that's pretty much what's in the box. And this thing has, well, number one, it's powered by USB-C, so that's a good thing. It's modern. 3 different speed settings. You can see when all 3 LEDs are lit up, that's the highest speed, and then the trigger button is on the front. And when you're on the high speed, you have to continuously hold the button down in order for it to stay on. If you're on the medium or the low speed, you can push the button once and it'll stay on all by itself, as you see. So I'm going to show you what the high speed sounds like. A lot of noise and a lot of pressure coming out of here. The reason why I bought this is because I absolutely hate having to, well, first of all, I don't like having to deal with a air line in the garage. My tools are electric, most of them are, and whenever I have to get the air line, like say I don't know, doing some engine work and I need to blow out the engine so, you know, crap doesn't get everywhere when I take the intake manifold off or whatever, I absolutely hate having to go over to my compressor, unravel my hose, go get my my air nozzle and go through all that nonsense when I could always just have this tool sitting on my toolbox ready to go. You get what I'm saying? Ever since I got this, I haven't had to use my air nozzle, the one that goes onto the line, in like 2 months, and I'm absolutely loving it. I do not regret this. This is something that like I wish I had a long time ago. It's a really convenient tool, and it does speed up a lot of things, guys. I know you could, you know, say I'm just being lazy, but if it's speeding up your workday, time is money. Okay, so I don't know what else to say about this besides it has a lot of pressure and it does work pretty well. You can see it has a battery indicator right here on the side. Now, one thing that I noticed that I don't really like about this is that in order to turn it on and off, you have to hold the power button for like 2 or 3 seconds, as you can see. So every time if you put this down, like say I'm doing a brake job, I just took a rotor off and I want to blow off all the dust and contaminants behind the rotor, you know, like say where the drums are, or I should say brake shoes. I go to pick this up and I have to hold the power button before I could use it. It gets kind of annoying once I'm done using it. Say you done, you know, cleaned off whatever you're doing, and you put this tool down, notice the LED lights are on. So it is gonna turn off by itself, but I noticed that if you let it turn off by itself, the battery on this thing is gonna be dead. Like the very next day you come to use it, the battery will be dead, because this whole thing just takes maybe a minute or two to turn off by itself, and it's just eating up the battery for no reason. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick it up. Gotta hold the button, turn it on, right? I use it, I'm done using it, gotta hold the button, turn it off. Kind of gets annoying to have to hold the button to turn it on or off. I wish there was just like a toggle switch, you know, where you could easily flip it on or off for power. But guys, really, I am nitpicking at this point, okay? It is still leaps and bounds way better than getting a traditional air nozzle and connecting it to an air line. So I actually really like this tool. It's very useful and I do not regret buying this at all. So let's move on to the next tool. Here I have a tool from Performance Tool. It's going to be the W89208, and it's a camshaft pulley holding tool. So the main reason why I wanted this is to do like timing belts on Toyota and Honda V6s, where you got to hold the camshaft, you know, to break the bolt free. And that's exactly what I recently used this for. Just a few days ago, I was working on a Honda 3.5 liter doing a timing belt, and this thing worked a treat. Worked perfectly, and I even used it recently on a Mazda Tribute to hold a power steering pump while I break the nut free on it. So worked pretty well. Now the last time I did a timing belt on a Toyota, I did not have this tool, and I had to weld up some elaborate bracket and basically make my own tool to get the job done. And it was honestly maybe like 45 minutes of my time, maybe like an hour of my time, to make up a specialty tool just to get it to work to hold the camshafts, and it got the job done. But again, time is eating up your time having to make a specialty tool when there is a tool that already exists that does the job. So this is something I should have had a long time ago, guys. And just using this tool within the past week on that Mazda and that Honda engine, kicking myself in the head, why didn't I buy this a long time ago? Because it made the job so easy that it just reminded me of how much I struggled when I didn't have this tool. So definitely worth the price, because it doesn't even cost a lot. So yeah, I know you can get it from any other name brand, and guys, look at it. It's just a piece of metal. Sorry about the noise. Just a piece of metal with two things welded on the end like that. You could get this from any brand off of eBay or Amazon, and I'm sure it's going to perform just as well. So definitely a useful tool, and I'm just glad to have it now, because the next time I need to use it, it's going to get the job done that much faster. So let's move on to the next tool. Alright, so these two, I'm just going to bundle them together because they're pretty much the same thing, just different sizes. So tools from Lisle. It's going to be the 77070 and 77110. So these are impact sockets, weighted impact sockets, and as you can see, they're brand new in the box, so I haven't had to use them yet, but this is something that the day you actually pull them out and they become useful, well worth the money. Even if they sit in your toolbox for a year before you finally need them, that one time that they're gonna shine is all it takes to justify having them. So what sizes are these? I failed to tell you guys that. So this is gonna be a 24 millimeter right here, the one I just took out this box. And this one is going to be a 22 millimeter. Now I already have the 19 millimeter variant of this type of tool, and I actually just used it the other day when I was doing that Honda timing belt. So we all know how Honda crank bolts can be. So I put my standard socket, and I mean standard as in a regular 19 millimeter socket, on my Milwaukee mid-torque impact gun, and it wouldn't budge the bolt, right? Keep in mind, this car's never been touched as far as the timing belt. Everything was original. So it wouldn't budge at all. And then I go ahead and get my high torque Milwaukee impact gun, you know, the big boy. I put my 19 millimeter regular impact socket on it, and still it would not budge. That socket was just bouncing off of that bolt. And then I grabbed my 19 millimeter weighted socket and boom, took it off. And at that moment, that's when you realize that tools like this are very useful. So I mean, look at the wall thickness, and these sockets are heavy, guys. They got some good weight to them. So when you come across something that's stuck pretty bad, pull out one of these and it's either gonna remove that bolt or it's gonna snap it off. Either way, it's coming off. So they are useful tools, and I'm just glad to have them. I know it's probably gonna be a very long time before I use them, but they will be useful. And to me, as far as I'm concerned, if they get the job done the very first time I use them, like nothing else was working, and then this one socket managed to get that bolt or nut off, it paid itself off right there. So there's nothing more to say about this, guys. It's just 2 weighted sockets. So let's just move on to the next tool. Yep, I got a few tools from Lisle. So hold on. So this is gonna be the Lisle 50210 gasket separator. Like when you're taking off a pan off of like a differential or an oil pan, that's what this is for. Basically, you can see this is almost like a knife edge right here, and you would put this between where the sealant is or the silicone and use it to separate the pan. So this like rectangle block right here is designed so you can actually hit it with a hammer and kind of force the cutting edge into the silicone to try to separate the pan from the housing, if that makes any sense. So recently I was doing a what is it? It was an oil pan on the Hyundai Sonata, I believe, and it kind of gave me hell. You know, they're silicone down from factory. It gave me hell trying to remove it. I eventually did get it off and everything went, you know, 100%. But as I was doing that job, I thought to myself, there has to be a tool for this. There has to be something to make it easier, right? So of course I bought this tool afterwards. That's why it's still brand new in the package. But let's go ahead and open it up right here for the first time. If I could hopefully not cut myself. Now I'm not expecting this blade edge to be very sharp because it doesn't need to, but I'm sure some people have sharpened it just so it does the job better. Let's feel it. Yeah, that's not, you know, it's not like a knife or anything. You're not going to cut yourself on that. But it's sharp enough to get between a pan and a housing to start cutting the silicone. I'm sure you can sharpen this if you wanted to. So you see right here, this has a nut right there. And you can see the handle has a bend in it, right? Well, I would imagine you could break free this nut and rotate the handle in any direction to give you the clearance that you need, because a lot of the other ones I've seen on Amazon or eBay, they have a straight handle on them, and I see how that could get in the way. Okay, and of course they're like cheap Chinese knockoffs, guys. They're not like an actual name brand like Lisle or something. Of course they cost less too. And another thing I noticed about them is the blade that's on them is like permanently attached to this block. Lisle is the only one, you know what, don't quote me on this because I know someone's gonna call me out, but at least from when I was looking off the top of my head, what I could remember, is Lisle is the one that allows you to replace the blade up here via these two bolts up top. And that's why I decided to go with Lisle, because I have a few Lisle tools and they've all been pretty good to me. So I figure, you know, I might as well go with them again. And if this blade ever wears out, Lisle actually does sell replacement blades for it, rather than having to throw the whole tool away and buy another cheap Chinese knockoff one. You get what I'm saying? So it's the whole reason why I went with Lisle. And the next time I have to do any type of oil pan, I'm kind of looking forward to using this tool now. So hopefully it works out for me. And that'll be it for this one. So let's move on to the next set of tools, which is going to be more Lisle tools. All right, here we go. I'm just going to bundle these together because I hate this, guys, with my camera. I'm always like, because I'm flipped around backwards. So when I go up, like, it doesn't go in the direction that I expect it to go. You see, like right here, I'm looking at the camera trying to decide. Okay, so that works. So we have the Lisle 59560 and the Lisle 59370. All right, and these are both for stretch belts. Okay, recently I was doing a job on a Ford F-150. I'm trying to think of what year. Honestly, guys, I can't remember the year off the top of my head, but they have a stretch belt on them for the drive belt and the AC. Okay, and I was doing a water pump job on it, and of course, you know, the belts have to come off. And the AC belt, the guy just figured, you know what, you're going to be in there, so you might as well replace both of the belts while you're in there. And I must have spent maybe like 45 minutes to an hour trying to get the stretch belt on the AC pulley. And it was giving me hell. I was so frustrated. And I'm not saying that these specific tools are going to get that job done. It just made me realize how much I was lacking in tools to deal with stretch belts. Because I have another one that I just picked up from AutoZone, like a cheaper one. It kind of looks similar to this, but it's made out of plastic. And it wasn't going to help me in that situation. You know, after dealing with that mess on that Ford F-150, it just made me realize how I have to invest more in good tools to deal with stretch belts. So the whole idea behind this one is it's supposed to, like, say you got your crank pulley, right? And I know this is hard for you guys to imagine, but you got your crank pulley with your belt going around it like that. Well, this is supposed to go over the crank like this, okay? And it's supposed to hold the belt in place almost like a clamp, so that as you rotate that crank around, it doesn't let the belt slip off. I hope that makes sense. I know it's really hard to imagine it. Let me see if there's any oh, you know what, I'm dumb. There's pictures right on the back. You can see the crank pulley and how you put this like U-shaped tool over the pulley, and it's gonna help to ensure that the belt stays in place as you rotate it and help align itself. I hope that makes sense. Okay, and then this one has a picture also, but it's a much smaller picture. So you would go ahead and put this tool right at the edge of the crank pulley, and as you rotate the crank around, it's supposed to walk the belt on or off. That's the theory, and what I found is, guys, they don't always work. They can be frustrating, but when they do work, it's really nice. So that's why I figured, you know what, this is one or two tools in the category of stretch belts that they're inexpensive, they're worth having, because they could probably get you, and here I am not being able to decide which way I have to move to get them in frame, but if they work, they could really get you out of a pinch. And if I come across more specialty tools like this that have to do with stretch belt, I'm just gonna buy them, because what's the worst that could happen? You have too many tools for a stretch belt and it makes your job easier. You get what I'm saying? So very inexpensive tools, and just worth having in your toolbox in case you ever need them. Because if you ever take 45 minutes to an hour to put on a belt, that's shameful, guys. That's a hit to your ego right there. So anyways, let's move on to the next set of tools. Next up, I have some hose pinch off pliers. I got these off of Amazon. These are Billy Tool branded. Guys, the color doesn't really matter. If you go on Amazon and look these up, you're gonna find a plethora of different colors. You know, pick your poison. They're all kind of the same thing, really. They're just hose pinch off pliers. The really large one are good for like large radiator hoses. I don't use them often, but they are useful for that. I tend to use the medium and the small size a lot more. Now, I actually already have a set of these. I have like the green variant of them that came from AutoZone, and they've been pretty good to me. But I noticed that I kind of lost one of them, and it's one of the important ones. It was one of the smaller ones that I lost. So I'm like, you know what? I need another set, because when you're working on a job, you're taking an engine apart. There are multiple hoses that have to be pinched off whenever you're taking things apart. You know what I'm saying? So it's why having one of them isn't good enough. So I bought another set of these plastic ones because they have been useful. I mean, they may kind of feel cheap just because they're made out of plastic, but the first time you use them and they actually do pinch off a hose and they work just fine, you realize that, hey, they work just fine. I guess it doesn't matter, right? Now, I can't find the exact packaging that these came in. I don't know where it's at, unfortunately, but if there's any specific information, I'll see if I can put it up on screen. Anyway, let's move on to the next tool, which is pretty much going to be the same thing, just a different variant of it. So here I have the SK hose pinch off plier, and you know, sometimes they just like to have nice quality metal things. So this is SK part number 7601, and it's the smallest version of their hose pinch off pliers. Now, I have one that's very similar to this, but it's from the brand Lang, which Lang is also a very good product. But I just wanted to try out the SK one, and I've used this a few times, and it actually works really well. And there's just something about having a metal pinch off plier in your hand. It just feels a lot more quality when using it, as opposed to, you know, one of these plastic ones. But does it make a difference? At the end of the day, guys, it doesn't. If you're okay with the plastic ones, go ahead and buy this, because it's going to pinch off a hose just as well as this fancy SK1 will. Let's see if I can do it right here on the side. There are hose. There you go. You can see how it's holding all by itself. All right, look, hold on, just fine. Not gonna let go. So that's the beauty in these type of tools, and man, it's got a good grip. Anyway, yeah, real nice. It feels quality. I like it. But do you have to spend the money? No, because it's gonna pinch off hose just as well as this cheaper plastic one does. But there's just something about having a nice quality tool. So there's a little bit of everything for everyone, you know, depending if you want to go the higher end route and buy something a little bit nicer, or you just want to save money and just buy something that just gets the job done. Either way, it's gonna work, guys. So let's move on to the next set of tools. Since we're talking about pinching off hoses and things like that and stopping things from leaking, it only makes sense to show you guys these plugs, again, to stop leaks. Okay, they have different sizes, they come in different colors to, you know, dictate the size that they're going to be in, and there's multiple of every kind, except those two blue ones are blue, yet they're for different sizes. And then they go into smaller sizes, like, you know, yellow, and you guys get it, right? Okay, all kinds of different sizes for plugging off things that you don't want leaking. You can see the bag is dirty, the tools are very dirty, because I have been using them, and surprise, surprise, they actually work when you get them to plug something off. The biggest problem I found with these is if you drop these in an engine bay, good luck trying to retrieve them or find them. So you got to be really careful to not drop them. But they are extremely useful when you're trying to not make a mess. So there's, you know, there's that. I can't find any information on this, but I'll just, you know, like I said at the beginning of the video, in the text, Amazon link for everything in the description. The only thing I could see here, it says made in China. Uh-oh, watch out, here comes all the tariffs, right? So, so little tools like this, guys, they make a difference, and they're worth just having in your toolbox, because making a mess when you're working on a car is no fun. And I've done that for years, and you know, you just disconnect something and try your best to stop it from leaking, but it always ends up leaking. So when you start to invest in, you know, things like plugs and pinch off pliers, it really does make a difference. It makes the job a lot cleaner and just makes the job go quicker at the end of the day. So let's move on to the next tool, talking about cleaner and quicker. So this is going to be a weird way to show you guys this tool, because the tool is not actually here. It's out in my garage. But you guys can see right here. Oh my goodness, I'm so bad at this. Okay, so this is the what's it called? The original general what's it called? Oh, forma funnel. Right at the bottom, right there. Okay, now if you go on eBay or Amazon, you're gonna find all kinds of knockoffs. Basically, like there's no name brand. But when I was looking, I decided to buy the original, you know, name brand one, even though it costs a little more, because like, hey, if I'm showing you my tools, at least let me buy the best version of that tool that I can, instead of buying all the cheap Chinese knockoff stuff. You get what I'm saying? I'm not saying, oh, this one, I was gonna say this one's probably made in China, but it says right there, made in USA, and that's why it costs a little bit more than the Chinese variants of it. But it actually feels pretty good. I'm not sure what's inside of it. Obviously it's rubber coated. And the reason why I don't have it here is because it's in my garage draining right now. It's dirty and full of oil, and I don't feel like cleaning it off, just to show you guys that, look, it bends. You get what I'm saying? Epic fail. Already made a mess. It was hitting right at the corner right there. So yeah, it kind of feels like a piece of rubber with a very thin piece of aluminum. I know it's not aluminum, but that's what it feels like. It feels like there's some sort of very thin sheet metal inside of it that as you bend it, it keeps that shape. And I'm going to show you guys some footage on me using it, obviously. And the biggest thing that pushed me to get this is I recently did an oil change on a Honda V6. And if you know about those, they have the oil filter coming off the side of the engine, kind of like where the right side a wheel well is. So, you know, this customer has like a newer, what was it, like a Ford, why did I say Ford? A Honda, I want to say Pilot. Is that the one that's a pickup truck? No, I don't know. Which one is let me Google this. I got it. It was a Ridgeline. Honda's pickup truck variant is the Ridgeline. So it was a 2020, and of course it's a relatively new car, right? And the customer, you know, really likes their car, and they try to keep it nice and clean. And they brought it to me for an oil change. And if you've ever dealt with one of those, as soon as you take off the oil filter, a lot of that oil tends to like leak right onto the subframe, and it gets into all these little holes in the subframe where once the oil gets in there, guys, you cannot get that out. It's gonna forever drip. And that's exactly what happened to me. So no matter how much I hit it with brake parts cleaner and tried to clean the subframe, it didn't matter. I finished the oil change, and sure enough, just a few hours later, the customer texted me saying, hey, I think you messed something up, because my car is dripping oil all over my driveway ever since you did the oil change. So they had to bring it back, even though I knew exactly what was going on. They brought it back. I looked it over and explained to them what happened. And even though they understood and they were like, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine, it's just a bad look. You get what I'm saying? For something, if I would have had a tool like this to redirect the oil and stop it from leaking all over their subframe and creating this mess, it's just a bad look, guys. Just invest in something like this. Even if you get the Chinese version, get something. You know, I used to use cardboard, and you know, that was my go-to. Use cardboard to try to redirect the oil to get it to drain into the pan and not touch anything else. But sometimes accidents happen. So I've been using this, testing this out, and so far I've been pretty happy with it. Alright guys, so we're going to go ahead and move on, because I know it's just a funnel that you could fold, and I guess there isn't much more to say about this. Now here's two Wobble extensions that I actually picked up from my local O'Reilly's. You can see that's why they got the Titan name brand on them. Let's see, there's a part number. That's really small, 68138. This is going to be the 3/8 version, and this is essentially the same thing but the 1/4 inch version. So the part number on this one is going to be 6616, and that's them right there. I thought they were pretty neat, because whenever I get an extension and I need to put a wobble on it like this, you know, so I put my wobble on, guess what? You know, you got your socket on the end, you're trying to get into a tight place, and flaccid. It just limps over. You get what I'm saying? So these are kind of like spring loaded. You see this? That's pretty neat. It could save you in a pinch, help you get the job done a lot faster, because since mine like to just flop over when you put a socket on there, it makes it that much more difficult to get it on the fastener. Sometimes I've resorted to like wrapping my my Wobble extension in like electrical tape to help it be a little bit stiffer, this would completely eliminate that problem. And the fact that it's connected to an extension already, so you're not, you know, stacking things on top of each other. This is all just one piece. It just kind of helps. So obviously the fact that the stickers or the tags are still on it, I haven't used them yet because these really are, I consider these specialty tools. These aren't the type of things that you're going to need often. It's just when you're in a pinch, you know, you got that one intake manifold bolt that's hard to reach, and you know, something like this would come in clutch, and that's what I picked it up for. I saw it over there in the store, and I'm sure you could find some sort of variant of this online like eBay or Amazon. I'm just letting you know where I got these from, which is my local O'Reilly's. Yeah, so that's it. I look forward to using them someday, and I think they're pretty neat, worth picking up. All right, so this is an oddball tool. It's from is it OTC? I think it is. I can't remember, guys. It's been a while. I don't know, the wrapper doesn't say anything. Oh wait, here it goes. Yeah, it is OTC. So part number on this, I guess, is 5028. It says slide hammer assembly. I don't know, I can't read that, guys. My eyes are starting to get old on me. Anyway, go ahead and pull it out. There's nothing else inside the box. And this is it right here. Yes, it's a mini slide hammer. So you can see this thread off right here in case you have different thread pitch for, or different diameters of your thread pitch for different attachments. So why did I get this? Well, probably been like a month or two. I was doing, I think it was the Chrysler 300. There's some solenoids underneath the intake manifold. I forget what they're called. They have a very specific name. If you've worked on it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I think there's 4 of them underneath the intake manifold, right into the block. And they're kind of like your VVT solenoids. Just think of them like that, okay? And they get stuck inside of their bore pretty bad. I had a hell of a time trying to get them out. I eventually did get them out, and I used my slide hammer, like my big slide hammer with like vice grip attachments on it, and that ended up helping me. But obviously it was too big of a tool, so it was kind of cumbersome to deal with it, but it did get the job done. But after I was done, you know, dealing with that mess, I thought to myself, man, it would be pretty neat if I had a mini slide hammer. It would have worked perfect in this situation. And that's when I came across this OTC tool, mini slide hammer. And you can see it's got the smaller thread pitch right there, or you could use this adapter. And you know, my whole idea would be to like put either a hook on it if you wanted to grab on something that allows you to use a hook, or maybe even get some sort of adapter to put my vice grips on it, so you could clamp down on whatever you're trying to pull, and then use a slide hammer to obviously pull out the solenoid. So this is definitely a specialty tool, and it has many uses. Wherever you could find that you may need a slide hammer and don't have the space to use a bigger one. Obviously the one I have is overkill for that type of stuff, but this is just one of those tools that while I was in the job, I was thinking to myself, God, I wish I had that right now. It would have been pretty sweet. But I had to do what I had to do. I ended up getting the job done, and the car was fixed at the end of the day. But it kind of pushed me to buy this. But hopefully I'll be able to use this someday, and it'll be pretty sweet when that day comes up. So let's move on to the next tool, guys. We are pretty much right at the end here. Okay, so I actually have 2 different last tools to show you guys. One of them is nothing fancy, guys. It's just a 21mm ratcheting wrench with a flex head, and this one happens to be from Master Force, which is Menards. Okay, so recently I was working on some truck or something, and here I am with my regular 21mm, just a regular wrench, and here I am turning it caveman style, a little bit at a time. And I thought to myself, man, it would be nice if I had a ratcheting wrench for this. So I went online, and the gear wrench, which I like to buy gear wrench, the gear wrench variant of this, it was quite expensive for just a single wrench. And I'm like, I can't really justify that for something that I almost never use. You know, that one time I was telling you about, that's like very few and far between, that it's hard to justify the price. So it's why I just went to my local Menards, and I'm like, you know what, if this breaks when I'm using it, then yeah, I'll bite the bullet and buy a better quality version of it. But for now, I just needed something that has ratcheting wrench for 21mm, and that's why I went to Menards and picked this up. And I'm sure it'll work just fine for the limited times that I have to use it. So yeah, that's it guys, nothing real fancy about this. Let's just move on to the last tool, which is just some sockets. So let me go get them. And here we have the final tool, which is some gear wrench mid-length sockets. So I got 3/8 drive right here. Let's see, the part number is going to be, these are long, 80554S-06. And for the 1/4 inch, it's going to be 80304S-06. So go ahead and put these aside. So I have been using these already, and they've been absolutely fantastic. What comes to memory is recently I was working on a Honda Fit, trying to change these spark plugs and getting the ignition coil out. One of the ignition coils, and I think I actually got a video of this. So perfect use for these mid-length sockets. I'm working on a Honda Fit doing the spark plugs right now, and I'm trying to get to the final ignition coil back there, trying to get the 10mm bolt off of that coil. But I noticed that on my ratchet here, if I put a short socket on there, then I can't reach the bolt because the ratchet hits the head of the ignition coil. If I put a deep socket on it, it pushes my ratchet so far back that I'm hitting this electrical connector in this bracket. So really the only option here is a mid-length socket, and as you can see, it fits perfectly inside of there. And ask me why 10mm bolts are on here this tight is beyond me. It's crazy. There you go. So perfect use for mid-length sockets. I know it's kind of a niche thing, you know, it's kind of like a specific type of job that you're gonna need them for, but again, whenever you do need them, they are nice to have. And I've already, just in the short period that I've had them, have already found the benefits of having mid-length sockets. So it is nice to have them. It is something I should have had a long time ago, honestly, and I'm just finding them to make my job a lot easier when you're in these tight places. So just want to show you guys my new setup using the Bauer fluid pump from Harbor Freight. It was on sale for like less than $40, so not bad. What pushed me to get this is yesterday I was doing differential fluid, and it just turned into a complete nightmare. I got a mess everywhere. The garage was just filthy, and here I have one of these like standard fluid pumps, and once these seals go out, I mean, it just leaks like crazy out the back, and then whenever you tip it the wrong way, this end starts leaking. I've always hated that pump, so I was like, you know what, let me get an electric pump, because not only is that messy, but it takes forever to use that hand pump over there. So I got this. So when you buy this pump, it comes with this hose, but it's 3 times as long, so I went ahead and cut it down, because I figure wherever I'm using this pump, the container of fluid is going to be nearby, so there's no reason, the longer the hose, the more liquid is going to be taken up inside the you know, the volume of the hose, if that makes any sense. So all I have here is a container of like Simply Made, you know, that lemonade container, and I drilled a hole for the tube to go in, and also you got to drill a breather hole, so that's what I did right there, so that it doesn't collapse the container. I filled it up with a brand new bottle of just some regular trans fluid, just to see how well it's going to pump this stuff. And you can see I got it in here, so I've already tested this. Now this hose did not come with the pump. I went to my local Menards and picked up a clothes washer, you know, hot and cold hose. So obviously this one's red, the other one was blue, and you pick your color, right? Anyway, so you can see they screw right on to the pump here. Very nice fitting, just like a standard garden hose type of fitting. Screws right on. Now this one, I wasn't sure how long I wanted it, because I don't want to have it too long. Of course, like I mentioned before, the fluid is going to take up the volume of the space inside the hose, so that's kind of wasted fluid right there. But another thing to consider is that whenever I'm pumping this thing, this pump is going to be right next to me, you get what I'm saying? So there's no reason to have this thing like crazy long. So I just cut off the end, and I'm going to see how well this works right now. But most times when you're trying to put fluid into a differential or a transmission, usually the fill port isn't that large, and sometimes a tube of this diameter won't fit. So it's why I got a reducer. It's hard to see, but it's a plastic reducer. It goes from this size To this size, this might be like a 1/4 inch. I'm not really sure on that. And I just went ahead and put this cap on it to prevent any leaks. Anyway, so like I said, I got brand new fluid in here. We're gonna pump it right back into the original container. So let me show you how fast it's gonna transfer the fluid from here to here. And I wish I had my tripod with me, but I don't. So let's find out. Of course, you don't want to run the pump dry, but like I said, I don't got my tripod with me. As you can see, it works great, and it should make fluid services a lot easier and faster. So let's put the pump into action. There's a few things I have to do beforehand to get this all set up. Basically, I cleaned out the container where I put the new fluid in, so that's brand new diff fluid directly from Honda, and that's what's inside the container right now. So make sure you clean out the container so you don't contaminate anything, okay? And the next thing is whatever fluids you ran inside the pump previously are still gonna be inside the line, so you have to kind of like purge it out. So what I did was, after filling up the container with the right fluid that you're gonna be using, turn on the pump and let it go into a pan like this, just for a second or two, just to get the old fluid out of the lines, and you get the lines primed with the new fluid, if that makes any sense. I've already gone ahead and done that, so this thing's ready to start filling up the diff on this Honda CR-V. As you can see, I have the line going into the fill plug back there on the differential. Okay, so I am holding the line, but I'm holding it from back here, so my hand is out of the side of the camera. I'm gonna go ahead and turn on the pump. Remember, we just have to fill it until the fluid starts to drip out of the fill plug. Alright, so it finished. And we're just about full. You guys see it dripping? So I was gonna say, it just about finished all the fluid that was in the container, and as soon as I turned off the pump, you could actually hear when the tone of the pump changed. But I guess that was just enough to fill this thing up, because you can see now we're dripping out of the fill plug. So I had in just the right amount. Just took a wild guess. It was a little over 1 quart, but yeah, we are dripping out of the fill plug. Let me see if I can get the last little bit out of the container into the diff, just to confirm that, you know, we have sufficient fluid in here. So I'm going to turn on one more time just for a second or two. And yeah, we're definitely filled, guys. You can see as I pumped in a little bit extra, we saw it drip out a little bit faster. So this has got to be the fastest way I've ever filled up a diff, by putting new fluid in it. It's actually amazing. This is definitely my go-to for now on for doing fluid changes on differentials and things like this.